Hello, welcome to my channel, Sea of Infinity. So in this video, just doing a little, oracle reading from my handmade deck. So if this video has found you, then I trust that it is for you. However, as always, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and use your own discernment. Alrighty, and we'll see what message wants to come through today. I know that on the pre-shuffle the mushrooms card came out, so I'll set that one aside to kind of set the tone for the reading, and let's see what else wants to come out. Alrighty, God, Source, Spirit, Mother Gaia, Angels, Archangels, Ascended Masters. That seems like way too many, but maybe not. All right, might just see if anything else wants to come out at all. And that one's poking out, so let's pop that down. All right, let's go with these. They all seem to want to just pop out all together at the beginning, but let's see how it all comes together. And what sort of message wants to come through for you. Pop its little head out for you to say hello. All right, so we'll start off with mushrooms. So we have laugh, medicine, connection, portal, neural network, transport. Being called to see behind the veil. Dissolve illusions one giggle at a time. Surrender control and trust life's medicine. Let go of what you think you are to remember what you've always been. So, this card might be coming out as a little wink or nudge from the universe or what have you to, have a little, magic mushroom adventure. If that resonates, for you at all, it might bring through, more messages or knowledge directly for you, kind of, assist you in connecting to that infinite realm of knowledge within yourself. And then with the other cards that have come out here as well, like with UFO and monitoring spirits and what have you, it also kind of makes me think as well with the whole idea of being called to see behind the veil and, dissolving illusions one giggle at a time and all that sort of stuff that kind of, through your spiritual or awakening journey or, kind of however that resonates for you and whatever kind of, stage, if you want to call it that, or level, if you want to call it that you may be at the moment or about to enter or have recently gone through, may, kind of bring up some truths or experiences into your reality that kind of, break previous perceptions for you, kind of, dissolve those illusions in, quite hilarious ways or just, surprising ways, and also kind of gives you more of a peek behind the curtain, so to speak, to kind of, see what's going on behind the veil in those sort of magical ways. And so, you might go through a type of awakening experience that, feels a little trippy in itself, almost like you have, gone on a magic mushroom journey, but without actually taking the medicine. Just unlocking a little, portal within your own energy or within your own mind, opening a little door that takes you into a little adventure of, you know, kind of just seeing behind that veil a little bit. And so I feel like, you know, as part of the process, as it says, you know, to surrender control and trust life's medicine and let go of what you think you are, to remember what you've always been, really just going with the flow of the process, trusting where it's taking you and guiding you and what it's showing you. And, you know, and rather than falling into a state of fear or stress, really, you know, having a giggle with those illusions as they devolve, and, you know, laughing your way through all the sort of, you know, magical and uncanniness that can occur. You know, kind of allowing your mind to bend in those sort of, you know, wonderful and funny type of ways as they can, you know, having fun with it in that way, laughing, you know, not taking it, you know, so seriously in a stressful or fearful way. You know, really jumping through the portal in that aspect. It feels like you're going to be, you know, going through another portal where you kind of, you know, can make more connections of just, you know, the greater nature of reality and yourself and existence, and the connection between, you know, all of that, you know, and all living beings, and just the energy of, you know, the universe and source itself. But, you know, having fun, as it says, you know, the importance of giggling as those illusions dissolve, and, you know, as those sort of realizations come to mind, or if you go through any sort of, you know, trippy circumstances that kind of are a bit like, whoa, but, you know, give you a little bit of that peek behind the veil to just, you know, trust it, go with the flow, have fun with it, and see, you know, what you learn and what pops up for you. You know, don't fear the weird and magical. Kind of reminds me a little bit of, you know, the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland. Like, you know, we're all mad here, you know, stepping into a bit of that energy rather than, you know, getting a bit, you know, control freak and a Queen of Hearts style. Instead, you know, just having more of that Mad Hatter sort of energy with these sort of experiences. And then next we have feathers, signs, messages, guidance, subtle support, between worlds, grace, reassurance. Not all help arrives loudly. You're on the right track. Keep going. A soft yes is still a yes. What you asked for heard you. Notice what's been placed in your path. Trust the timing of small confirmations. Let yourself be comforted. You are not alone on this path. A very reassuring and calmful sort of message to come out after the more, you know, mushrooms, magic, weird and Mad Hatter sort of energy, to just let you know that you can be reassured that you are guided and supported along this journey, even when it seems like you are alone. You never truly are alone. So, you know, just allowing yourself to relax and take some reassurance from that, especially if, you know, you do have any little moments where things do get a little bit weird and funny, you know, not only laughing through that, but also just feeling relaxed that, you know, it's all part of the process and you're still, you know, always connected to source and life, and, you know, nothing's going to happen to you. You're okay. You're supported and guided. So allow yourself to be comforted in that way. Also as well, you know, if you are seeing any feathers or do see any feathers, that could be another just, you know, sign or synchronicity for you for this message, or any other sort of, you know, little synchronicities you notice along the way. As it says, you know, notice what's been placed in your path. And really trust the timing of those small confirmations. Really trust those little winks and nudges from the universe, and what you intuitively feel they mean for you before your mind kind of gets in the way and, you know, the logical assessor tries to be all like, that can't be real, or that surely isn't so, you know. really allow the first intuitive feeling you had of what those sort of little synchronicities could mean for you are. Sorry as well if that noise came through a bit loud. That's just my cat, doing cat things. And, also if you have, if you have, a question or some sort of guidance, you've been reaching out to the universe for, this card as well could just be that little soft yes. A soft yes is still a yes. What you asked for heard you. Or also, if you do, have any other sort of signs or synchronicities that pop up in a way that, resonates for you as, a yes for you, to really trust and to follow that, to know that, the universe, or however you want to call it, is communicating with you in that way and wants to provide that reassurance for you. So, be comforted, be reassured, and know that yes, what you asked for heard you. And even a soft yes is still a yes. So, that sounds like a positive and comforting message to come through. And then we have eyes on the prize. Focus, devotion, aligned ambition, vision, commitment, perseverance, clarity of intention. Fix your gaze on what truly matters. Hold your vision steady. Momentum grows where focus is aligned and aimed. You're closer than you think. Stay with it. Don't be distracted by detours dressed as doubts. Joy strengthens endurance more than force ever could. Feels particularly relevant as well with the, joy strengthens endurance, with the dissolving illusions one giggle at a time. Really, enforcing that message of joy, of laughter, really being, your weapons, if you will, for this journey. Really taking the power that comes through joy and that comes through laughter to really alchemize and enhance this sort of, magical journey and experience for yourself. And also just seems like a great little, nudge and reassurance from the universe to, keep your eyes on the prize. You really are closer than you think, so stay with it. Hold your vision steady so that you can, really manifest and bring into your reality that which you are wanting to be aligned with and wanting to experience. You're really having that clarity of intention, that sort of, laser focus towards what it is that you do want rather than what you don't want. Focusing your beautiful, amazing, abundant energy towards those things that you do want to experience and do want in your reality, rather than, giving your energy to things you don't want and feeding those things that you don't want. Feed the things you do want. Keeping your eye on the prize, keeping that focus, keeping that devotion, and knowing that that perseverance and commitment is really going to, bring about such a great reward for you here. So, if there's anything you've been working on or working toward, or have been thinking about working on or working toward, or just any sort of, manifestations or what have you that you've been kind of, trying to align with, or however it resonates for you in your journey, just a little nudge here to, to keep going with that, but not to do so in such a way that, you become so serious and bogged down by it, knowing that joy strengthens endurance more than force ever could. So, keep laughing, keep having fun, but just also don't lose sight and lose focus of what it is that you do want to achieve here. Don't just give up at the last minute just as you're about to have that breakthrough. Don't, maybe you've run like almost 99% of the way and you're about to break through. So don't just, give up just before the finish line. a little boost from the universe and reassurance here to keep going, to keep at it, keep those eyes on the prize, and you really are going to achieve and be rewarded with so much more than you expected. I just I just heard as well, like, you're going to be proven wrong in the best way. So, maybe you've been anticipating something not working out so well, or you've just been anticipating it to work out to a certain degree, and it feels like here the universe is saying that it's going to, really smash your expectations and prove you wrong in the best way, that it's going to all come together, or just be such a wonderful outcome, so much better than you could have ever have even imagined. So be prepared to be proven wrong in the best way. All right, then we have UFO, cosmic visitors, contact, unknown, mystery, reality glitches, downloads, expanded awareness. Curiosity is the gateway to contact. Stay open. You are brushing the edges of a larger reality. Pay attention to the anomalies. They're not mistakes. Something is trying to get your attention outside of the usual frame. Not everything unfamiliar is a threat. Some things arrive to expand you. Let wonder lead instead of fear. The universe loves a curious observer. It all seems very, very funny and on sync as well to have my cat drop by to, bless the reading. Really, really paying attention to the anomalies in that aspect, and with the cosmic visitors vibe, we've got our own little furry visitor here to align with the energy. All right, Bubba, just careful there. All right. I'll pop those back up. That'll do. So, could be a great sign and synchronicity from the universe that you're about to have a visitor, pop by, and otherworldly, visitor, a cosmic brother or sister, something from the unknown, or you're a bit mysterious, or a reality glitch type experience, like how we were talking with, the magic mushroom adventure type feeling. Or, all that feeling of being on a magic mushroom trip, but without even taking anything, just those sort of reality glitches occurring in such a way that it feels a bit trippy, like, whoa. So, if you do experience anything out of the ordinary in that way, to just, not be alarmed and to giggle and laugh and have joy, as we said, and allow, yourself to receive those downloads and expanded awareness, and have fun with the mystery of it all. And as it, mentioned with the feathers card as well before, with, kind of paying attention to those small synchronicities and what have you, also paying attention to the anomalies, really knowing that, something outside of the usual frame, behind the veil, as we were mentioning before, is, trying to get your attention and trying to kind of bring your awareness to something. And, as we said as well, having fun with it, and knowing that, not everything unfamiliar is a threat. These experiences can arrive to expand you, to show you so much more about yourself and, the universe and reality around you. So, really appreciate the magical gift for that it is, Allow yourself to really fall into the unknown and have fun with the mystery of it all. and really just accepting anything that kind of may occur for you, and just being excited about it all, staying open, staying curious. There's so many wonderful and magical ways that sort of energy could manifest for you along your journey and experience. So maybe it's seeing, a UFO in the sky, or, UAP, however you want to call it, or maybe it's, receiving downloads or telepathic communication, or some sort of reality glitch occurring, some sort of little trippy moment, or even, direct contact from an otherworldly being, or whatever it may be for you, or just kind of, receiving downloads of wisdom, or just connecting the dots for you in a way that, you weren't able to do before. So many exciting and magical ways that could come through for you. And so just, having fun with it, expecting the unexpected, as we said before, and, preparing to be proven wrong in the best way. And then next we have monitoring spirits. Ooh, a little bit of a more shadowy energy, if we will, to kind of, change the energy a little bit here. Stir the plot a little, but let's see where it takes us. So we have discernment, which seems quite relevant with the discernment card coming out as well. So a strong message there. Perception, field awareness, cosmic observers, awareness. You are doing something worth watching. Your perception and awareness of subtle energies is enhancing. Use your discernment. Have no fear. Neutral intelligence is not used to harm, but observe. Use this time to strengthen your energetic boundary practices. So a great and important sort of card to come out, especially if you are experiencing any of that sort of monitoring spirits type energy in your reality, or, along your awakening journey. Or if you're about to, those sort of experiences when you're not used to them, or if you're not sort of used to this sort of, I don't know what you would call it, but, pathway of life. It can be a little, concerning and a little destabilizing, and, it can just throw you off a bit and seem a bit fearful, or, when you seems like you're being, monitored by, insects or bugs, or even other animals as well, or people or what have you, but you can kind of feel or sense like an energy to it, almost like a conscious observer, viewing or observing you through that little creature or critter. When you're not expecting such a thing or used to such things, it can seem, a little worrying and a little concerning. So just as it says here to, have no fear with that, as I feel like a lot of times you hear of these sort of monitoring spirits type energies and, experiences, people can talk about them in quite a, like a negative, dark, scary way of, like treating them like the enemy, like, but, not being so, fearful or control based or what have you in that way. Seeing it more as a neutral intelligence that's, not used to harm, but just observe. Almost if you kind of, think of, the universe and, our greater reality itself and, a matrix type reality, thinking of it in that way where, there is all this sort of, loving, supportive energy and that we all, know about and all that sort of beautiful stuff. But also kind of, from the other side as well, from that more logical side, thinking of them all, the ones and zeros in the background that are sort of just, equally important. So kind of, thinking of this sort of, matrix energetic reality, kind of having, like a little workers in the background, neutral intelligence that is just, you know, doing the ones and zeros, just, you know, doing the sort of red tape paperwork type stuff, you know, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and is just there to, you know, to observe and to, you know, observe the timelines and to observe, you know, energetic anomalies or interference, and just to make sure that, you know, things are going on track or what have you. You know, kind of like an assessing, you know, more sort of energy that's, you know, can seem a little cold or eerie, but isn't there to harm you or anything like that. It's just there to observe and to ensure everything's kind of, you know, running smoothly, and to, you know, take the field notes that it needs to go back for, you know, the system to integrate and to update as it needs to, if you will.